Question, is this normal?
You are not kidding, are you?
This is a pretty hardcore origin story.
Holy fuck! That was diabolical!
All right, Gomez. Yeah, that's what you're expecting, right? Yeah, of course, this is your boy, the Simpmaster Thirst King Joe Kane. I'm just coming in here to make a proper announcement because, of course, nothing was ever said previously. Honeycomb Hideout's been off for a little bit, mostly due to the fact that both myself and my Scientist Supreme, Christine Kitchens, we've been dealing with some things in the real world space, and it's making the podcast a bit more difficult. So, for our fans, I do apologize for the delay. Definitely should have said something sooner, but, this is the world we live in. But I want to go ahead and let you know that we do still have content that's going to be coming out. Thankfully, as you've tuned into this episode, you'll know that our homie in Imaginos, our compatriot Mark Dudley, along with our friend of the show Asia Loxer, so they've graciously stepped up to produce content for the show while we discuss ruminate on the future of the show. But they'll be stepping up to help us out for the foreseeable. So for those of y'all that listen to us regularly, thank you so much. We really do appreciate it. With hope, we're hoping that we eventually can come back and make more content for y'all. But until then, you got Mark and Asia, and they got some fun shit to talk about. So give them the same kind of love and respect you would give me and Christine. And yeah, and hopefully Mark gets a little better with intros, because they're about to jump right into it right now. So here's Mark and Asia. Show in progress.
What's up?
The zine scene.
Mm-hmm.
So tell us a little bit about the zine that you're doing.
So the zine that I'm doing right now, I'm working with my best friend. It's called Welcome to the Onyx Comics, and it's about these two friends that are in a tavern, and they pretty much run a tavern, but the tavern kind of like travels around different dimensions and worlds. I don't want to say too much information because it's not out yet, and I don't want to spoil it.
You can give us a little clip to make us want to get it.
But it's a story me and my friend started just because we both want to get into comics. My best friend, they do art and I write. And so we were kind of sitting here trying to figure out like a comic we can do that wouldn't be such a giant push, because I don't know about the rest of y'all in the comic book industry, but I feel like I've always wanted to work on comics, and every time I want to work on it, I get this big giant idea that ends up being something like One Piece, and then I never start it because it's too long. It's too much, too long. And so me and my best friend were like, okay, what's something we can do that's going to be short and sweet, and we can put it out. We can put it out sooner than later. And so we came out with this idea.
That's what you're doing, right? Cutting it in little bitty pieces.
Right. Essentially, we're just making our big idea into smaller bits.
All right. But you're trying to have as much fun as possible too, right?
Yes. We're trying to have as much fun as possible. We're both really into fantasy, especially because although we definitely see like comic books, indie comics, especially Black indie comics in the fantasy scene, I think in the larger media we don't see that much of. And so we want to help kind of with that representation of having like Black creators and Black characters and kind of like the fantasy sci-fi kind of genre of comics.
One thing I like about the zine scene that I've always found to be really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Number one, it's not going to cost you a ton of cash to put them out. And number two, you're not going to sell it. You don't have to sell them for a ton of cash. And you can say the zine scene has been used to say a whole lot of things politically, that you will have a heavier lift to say in other comic forms. The only place you can say as much you can stay in the zine scene is probably comic strips, and get that much of a, at the end of the
I
day.
agree. I love that aspect of zines, and I also like that. Like you said, anybody can do a zine. Like I don't draw very well. My stick figures are, but I can still put out a zine and people will still like it. Like as long as it's something interesting
Right.
and you can truly speak your mind on zines. I didn't make this zine, but I read this zine that I thought was cool. The title was something like what if God was transgender? And I thought that was really like that. It was a really interesting zine to read. That somebody created because they want to share kind of like their life being transgender. So I thought that was pretty cool. But like zines are used to say whatever you want and just to share a part of yourself. I think one of my zines that I made is my favorite. It was a bunch of stories that I wrote over the years, and I put it in zine form. But I critiqued them myself. So like, as you're reading, you see me writing to myself like, "Girl, what does this mean?"
Now,
Next time, take this out. What are we talking about? So, but when I wrote that, I kind of just wrote it just for fun. But I took it to the Zine Fest, and people were really into it and really into the aspect of like somebody critiquing their own work.
and I also think it was real personal too. So that's another thing. It kind of gives people uh a window into who you are. So I think that's
For sure.
so. Also, one thing about the zine scene that I like, I mean, the zine scene is really like the crux of everything because people been doing zines since the 1900s, early 1900s, probably earlier than that in some form of fashion. And I like zines because really you can work out a lot of ideas in zines. You can move later on to other media. A lot of ideas. And the thing that it doesn't take you don't have to invest, what I have to invest doing a web comic or doing, a print comic, all the time or whatever for people to kind of see the payoff. That's what I really like about it.
No, you don't. You can because the purpose of the zine isn't necessarily for it to be like super fancy. Like you're not supposed to have like you're not supposed to have to go to like a publisher and have to get like this really nice binded thing. It's just something that you're able to make like on your own with whatever materials you have. Like I said earlier, you can make a zine with one sheet of paper, folded, and make an 8-page, 10-page, 16-page zines with a one sheet of paper. And you can use whatever materials you want, and they're pretty relatively inexpensive. Like my cheapest zine was free. I made a zine where I was just drawing a bunch of anime eyes. I don't know why I did that, but I
That's
gave
hard
it
to,
out for free. And my most
you got it out there though.
I did get it out there. And then my most expensive zine I made was $10, and it was the one where I have like all my writings and stuff like that. And both of those I made like just printing on some paper or some of my stuff. The one that was $10, I think I made a cover out of like construction paper and decorated it.
The thing with that is that at the end of the day, that thing is a lot more personal, like I said before. So, I mean, again, people get to see, get a little more insight to who you are, and you get to say things that are a lot more personal than when you're doing commercial stuff, whatever. So,
yes, exactly.
So, I mean, that again, let's segue from there into let's Techie's interview. Techie, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, buddy?
All right. Hey, yo, my name's Tucky, or actually, I go by Kaze now. I am a freelance artist, manga artist. I don't know how to introduce myself really, but
Tell us a little bit about when you started, or what attracts you to doing manga, and when you started on this journey.
okay. I've been drawing ever since I was little. I grew up with like old school Yu Yu Hakusho, Dragon Ball. I started getting really into it. Let's say 7 years old, and then kept going and kept progressing. From there, picked it up more, learned more techniques, and yeah, and now we're here.
So let me ask you something a little bit. I know I'm big into training, right? So are you pretty much self-trained? Did you have any mentors that help you out, or was the web, how influential was the web to you developing as an artist?
Mhm. So I've never had any tutors or anything. So it's been all self-trained. I mean, I did take like classes in high school, but that doesn't really count. Uh,
You think it doesn't really count?
I mean, not for what I'm really going for.
Well, this is the reason I asked that question, right? Because those classes still were kind of foundational, right?
Yeah, true.
Right. So if it's foundational, all we doing is building on top of foundation. Asia, you and I talked about that before
Hmm.
with the
Yep.
foundation stuff. But yeah, so I just the reason I asked you that question about the internet too, specifically that I know a lot of you guys in your generation, there are a lot of resources on the internet that didn't exist when I started drawing.
Hmm.
So I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about, the internet and its and some of those resources if you can.
Okay. Uh, let's see. So as far as internet goes, I've had I used to post on YouTube little videos with the time lapse videos.
Right,
And
right,
then I got introduced to people like Mark Criley and then some other artists are on there like Jaza.
right.
And I guess for me, the I'll narrow it down to the four artists I really shaped my style. It'd
Hmm.
be Shiro Miwa,
Uh-huh.
Dog Vision Carnage. You got Obata Takeshi, Death Note, Bakuman,
Mhm.
Katsura Hoshino, D Gray Man,
Mhm.
and the Tite Kubo. Sorry, Tite Kubo from Bleach. And
I see a lot of those guys' styles in your work. So yeah, definitely.
yeah. So I guess the internet helps with having a lot more access to that information.
It's funny
And
to talk about Mark Creeley. We just as you remember. All right, so again, sorry, before I get to that part,
mhm.
you started the words. All right, so I know that you started with Shine Otaku Comics. Were those the first guys you worked with, or have you worked with other guys since then? Or just talk
Those
about that.
would be the first people I worked with, yeah.
So how'd you end up getting with Shine Otaku?
I used to watch anime reviews like King of Lightning or any
Mhm.
of those. And Irvin uh used to be Gaming Cloud 9 or something like that.
Oh, Clay Cloud 9, I think.
Yeah. So from there, that's when I got to know him and then started from there.
So what was the first thing you did for them? Was that NARAKU Murder the first go around, or would you do other stuff?
Yeah, there was actually, even before that, I used to draw like I drew tribute pictures for like Irvin and
Oh,
like
okay.
the Cloud Village and all those. So
Okay.
and then the first version of Naraka Murder was the first piece of work I had with them.
Right. Okay. All right. So starting I mean, because Irvin is because I come from what we like to call things by time and whatever. So I come from maybe what you want to call OEL manga 2.0 or whatever, 1.0. That was like in the early 2000s, where Tokyo Pop was putting out Rising Stars manga, Viz was doing stuff, and Dreamwave was out and stuff like that. So there was a whole nother thing that happened after the collapse of that stuff in the early 2000, right? And so
Hmm.
Irvin was telling me about what was it called, Manga Magazine or whatever, that was going on behind the scenes that kind of kept that alive. Did you have any involvement with Manga Magazine or any of those guys back then or no?
No, I wasn't part of that.
Okay, so yeah. All right. So you basically again, you pretty much you're self-taught and you got a chance to look and gain a lot of insight from other mangaka.
Yeah, that sums it up.
Okay, all right. So I can, hey, Asia, can you I thought you was about to say something.
Oh yeah, I do. I got questions. I got
Oh
questions.
yeah, go ahead.
Uh-huh.
Let
I
me
was gonna
hold on.
ask you, so what is your reason for doing manga versus traditional American comics?
I feel with manga gives me like let's see. So I think manga as a medium established it gives me the chance to do what I really want to show in my works. Because I mean American comics is very similar, but I think the way they're structured is like let's say you want to start with like Batman issue 1 or something. There's so many other Batmans to start with, so there's no set beginning to end. And manga is different in a way where there is a beginning, there is an end, and yeah, it's just easy to pick up.
Do you have a least favorite manga?
Ooh, ooh. I would say Fairy Tale's up there and one of the least.
What? What, Asia? Did I
Uh,
There's too much hate for Fairy Tail. Fairy Tail is a great manga and anime. Oh, you broke my heart. I can't believe it.
oh no. I will give Fairy Tale one thing. The soundtrack was amazing.
Yes, Fairy Tail has wonderful music.
Yeah.
No, not fairy tale, huh?
That hurt my soul. But I just had an inkling because I feel like a lot of people have different reasons for why they don't like Fairy Tail, but I just feel like y'all don't understand how amazing Fairy Tail is. Y'all are watching it with your eyes closed.
I've never seen it.
It's a good anime. People's critiques of it are fair though. I just feel like the critiques are too much.
You say they not getting down there into the pie, huh?
They're not watching enough. Also, sometimes the critiques I'm like, okay, y'all say this about Fairy Tail, but then y'all go watch Food Wars. I'm not understanding. Like
Uh,
a lot of people say there's too much fan service on Fairy Tail, and then they go watch Food Wars. I'm like, okay, I've never had like
You
soup and
guys
then my
about
clothes
fan
came off.
service? Look, when I was coming up, that's how we got into anime and manga was fan service.
Fairy Tail doesn't even have that much fan service in my opinion, at least compared to some of the other shows. Like I feel like when Fairy Tail came out, aside from shows that were like ecchi, I do
mhm.
feel like it kind of had a lot of fan service, but compared to some of the shows that have come out recently, it ain't got that much fan service.
I'll give it that, yeah.
But to check
But I
fairy
do get the whole
tale,
friendship thing. But that's a part of the magic. But I'll stop. I'll stop. I can talk.
definitely
I
gonna
can
go
talk
check
for hours
fairy
on Fairy
tale out,
Tail.
see what I'm missing.
Yes, watch it. Watch it.
So Techie, as far as the what you want to call it, OEL scene,
Mhm.
English language manga, is your goal to try to get something printed in Japan through Kodansha or Shueisha or one of the other smaller manga companies, or what's your ultimate? I can say ultimate goal. What's your goal in the near term?
In the near term, I do just want to have something physical I can show people and like sell, go to conventions and have something physically available. Then later on, if Shueisha or Kodansha picks it up, then hey, I'm all for that.
This is funny though because I know we've been discovering some smaller manga publishers that a lot of us over here kind of overlook. They're still pretty established there in Japan, but
Mhm.
a lot of us overlook them because usually just Kodansha and Shueisha stuff comes over here for the most part. So it'd be kind of interesting to see, you know, other manga publishers picking up stuff.
Mhm.
Right. So I was gonna ask you. Oh, okay. Now what? So, in terms of the four gentlemen that you just mentioned as being a part of your uh, uh, genesis,
Mhm.
uh, who do you think is the most influential of those gentlemen and why?
I would say most influential. Probably Shiro Miwa. because I really like the way he does contrast with his style.
Right, 'cause it's all
And
it's really all black and white. It's not a lot of
yeah, and just the way he styles his characters is really nice.
that's a nice style. I'm reading Dogs right now. Actually, I'm liking. I like I like his gesturing is really nice.
Hmm.
Actually, his gesturing is really nice as far as that's concerned. So,
Yeah.
from a storytelling standpoint, though,
Hmm.
who do you think is probably your favorite mangaka that you've read thus far in terms of just, the page to page, being able to, emote the characters emoting and the action being, following, easy to follow and dynamic. Who do you think is that guy?
That would be Togashi with the Hunter x Hunter.
Out
That is
Mhm.
my all-time favorite. I guess the art is not that great in the manga, but
but in terms
the
of
story,
uh,
yeah.
pull the whole thing together as a package, then you think he does a pretty good job.
Yeah, as a package, yes.
That's cool. That's cool. Because I know a lot of times, there are people that I like that, they'll be great at artists in particular, but when they putting their stuff together, it's kind of like, I don't know. It's kind of like Linnell Francis Yu for me is like that. I love his work, but as
Mhm.
he's putting together his stuff, it doesn't, his work, it stands on business, so to speak, but I have people who are far more dynamic than he is.
Oh yeah.
Far more, the storytelling is far more deep and dense than he is. But I mean, again, uh hey, you got anything you want to pop in? Or
Sure. So do you think the story is more important or do you think the art is more important and why?
Hmm. Overall, I would say the story is more important because you can have really nice art or you could have really bad art, but if the story catches you on, then yeah, you'll keep going for it.
yeah,
I'll
them
give an example of one. One Piece. I don't like the art at all.
I feel you. I feel you.
But I've I've followed the story up to I won't spoil it, but up to past the time skip, past like Kaido. But the art, I just can't do it.
It's a little rough for me too, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely. But people love it, man. I know.
Yeah.
They do. They do. They love the story.
I know
I mean,
people
some people like the art.
look.
Some.
I know people in my family that are my age that probably. You don't like One Piece? I'm like,
And you gotta like the story to watch 2,000 episodes or however
Yeah.
many episodes there are.
a zillion episodes.
Now, if the
Oh,
story was bad, then yeah,
all
I
right.
wouldn't even touch it.
Oh yeah, like One Piece is definitely something else. How about so let me ask you a question. How do you feel about as an artist, how do you feel about the Dragon Balls of the world and the what else? Just say Dragon Ball and something like Naruto. How you feel about those?
Hmm. Dragon Ball is a little nostalgia for it. I do enjoy Dragon Ball, but I do think it overstayed its welcome.
It's
Like
jumping shark.
yeah. I think it should have ended at maybe like Boo.
Mhm.
Yeah. Naruto, I've love-hate relationship with it because the highs of Naruto are really good.
Urban love that Naruto though.
But the lows,
Yeah.
there's some aspects of it's like, damn, should have should have done something different.
Well, again,
Yeah.
funny because it's weird because with Naruto, I can understand what they're doing and whatnot. It seems to me sometimes with Naruto, the creator can be a little schizophrenic, like basically like well again, I find this with all manga guys. With all most people,
Mhm.
I don't say not all manga guys, but most people who have popular manga, it seems that lately the fans can have a little more influence over that manga maybe than they should. So how do you feel about that? Let's say that, all right, you're doing NARAKU Murder.
Hmm.
I'm a big fan. And I'm like, I don't know about that direction you're going in with NARAKU Murder. Do you
Hmm.
change the direction? What do you do?
Personally, I would not change direction. Now, let's say you kill off a really fan favorite character. I wouldn't bring them back, but
Sometimes characters got to go, buddy.
yeah, that's a hard one. But yeah, I would just keep going my same direction.
All right, because again, it's funny because this a reason I asked that question because I wonder if people think about the downstream effects of what they
Hmm.
do. Let's say they'll go back, oh, I brought that character back, and so they've done some tremendous stuff by killing that character. Later on, even though people like them, they've done some tremendous storytelling by killing the character, and then
Hmm.
next thing you know, you kind of crapped all that storytelling down the drain.
Yeah.
You know,
Pretty much.
yeah, that's just it's kind
Also, people got to understand there's fan fiction. If your character's dead, you can write a fan fiction, read the
Yeah,
fan fiction.
exactly.
I never thought about that.
They're all fictional characters.
I literally never thought about that. That's a good point. That's an excellent point. Wow.
That's what I love. I, I read a lot of fan fiction because I mean, do I have any characters? Nah, I do have a lot of characters that I like that died.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I kind of got killed, but anyway, I feel like a fan fiction is a way to like interact with a media that has characters that are doing what you want them to do because you're the one that wrote it or somebody else wrote it.
Mhm.
Sure. Exactly. That's a great point. I'm
And I
just
think on that point, what was I gonna say? I think that's why I kind of like having more like freelance, more freedom to write what I want instead of I know like Shonen Jump, they have to please the fans or that series gets axed.
and it's a cutthroat environment.
Yeah.
Much.
Definitely that.
Would
So
you ever take a position like with a bigger manga company like Shonen Jump, or would you, if the opportunity presented itself?
I think in the past I would have said yes. But now I'm
Okay.
thinking of it, I'm like, probably not.
again, it's funny though too because I mean again, I've actually as a lot of you guys have gotten older, that's starting to be the consensus.
Mhm.
That's interesting. You know. So what do you think that the majors can't offer you now that you're looking for today, as opposed to when you were younger?
Uh, I think harping back on the freedom thing. So I just feel I know Shonen Jump is probably the most free of like Japanese companies, but you're still beholden to like getting sales pretty much, and that can affect your work.
And also, there's that anime adaptation.
Hmm.
Is this going to get it? Is this going to be particularly strong enough to get anime adaptation or what? I personally don't know exactly. I've been actually studying it, what how that process works. But right
Hmm.
now, I don't know enough to be able to speak on it. But it's just interesting to me that you were talking about Western comics earlier, right?
Yeah.
One of my personal critiques of Western comics is one of your personal critiques about them not having an established beginning, not having an established end.
Hmm.
I've been doing Western comics all my life, and that's one of the things that's what actually got me into manga.
Hmm.
Is the fact that I knew if I read something, it was going to have a definitive end. And I also like the fact that the stories that they told were a lot more mature and nuanced than what was being told in Western comics at the time. This
Oh
was
yeah.
before, this was in the early 80s. And then, things started changing in the mid 80s for Western comics. But still, again, there's that end, it's that established end, and it's that maturity of storyline. One thing I like about manga that you can tell any story. And
Hmm.
at a time before, there was a time in the Western comics you could do that. Before the early 50s, you could do the same thing. There was a million different type of stories. So, I mean, I get you there. So let me ask this one question. as far as original English language manga goes, I had a conversation. Well, this was a conversation I've had kind of off and on with the artist for Phoenix Wright, Ace Attorney. And the thing is, so we talk kind of about original English language manga finding its own space and finding its own wings.
Mhm.
Do you think that a lot of people who are doing manga these days try to copy the Japanese too much? And does that, there's two questions. Does that stop them from being able to use their own voice?
The first part, I think I am guilty of it a little bit. But yeah, I do think Japanese manga has influenced people, and there's a lot of imitating. I wouldn't say copy, but yeah, imitation. Uh, and then the second part, what was the second part actually?
Second part was, do you think that that stifles people's real voices?
Okay. Um, yes, because Japan is it's pretty much an isolated island. They can only tell stories, not only, but they mostly tell stories for Japanese people, and it's hard to branch out. We have an advantage here in the West where we have so many other different narratives we can go through. And I think if we imitate Japanese too much, we kind of lose that advantage.
See what you're saying. So let me ask you one more question as far as that's concerned. Do you think that the fan base here is an impediment to original English language mangas starting to gain traction? Because what I mean is that, like, you'll go to anime cons, you talk to people, read manga, whatever. They're kind of snobbish about Japanese manga as it relates to other mangas. I mean, do you think that that's an issue, and if so, what do you think we can do about that?
I think that's impediment. I think there is a little like this like superiority complex where it's like, oh, if it's not Japanese, it's not manga type of thing. And as far as fixing that, I do think we just need to have more stories told from us. That way it kind of legitimizes like our Western stories.
Sure.
I think that's the only way you could really fix that issue.
Sure.
So how do you think I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Okay. I was gonna say, what would you tell someone that wants to start telling these stories in a manga?
Ooh.
Through manga.
I would say it's good to learn from Japanese, but that market's very saturated, so try to do something different to stand out, because you tell the same type of shonen battle manga that's Naruto clone 1, 2, 3. It's not gonna stand out.
It's funny because I tell you, these days I've been getting a lot more in isekai and josei manga, right? And I'm finding, that
there's so much isekai.
Oh, yeah.
so much josei too, right? And the thing is that I'm finding that being over here, I've just been digging deep, and I'm finding that I haven't even begun to scratch the surface of either one of those two demographics. In terms of the depth and whatnot, and the type of stories that they tell, it's definitely a rabbit hole. So again, that leads to another question. I know a lot of people. Do you think there's a lot of mislabeling of particular manga here in the OEL contingent? Because I've seen people who think their stuff is it's shonen, but it's not. It's something else. It's not shonen. Or I have people who be like, I don't want to. The term isekai, I don't like that. I'm like, but the stuff is clearly isekai. This is for an adult audience. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, do you think that people kind of mislabel their manga's demographics, and why do you think they do that?
I think, yeah, there is some mislabeling because maybe this is not the root cause of it, but I think labeling it shonen is more accessible to a wider range of people. But if you're writing like a seinen or a josei or what's other genres, and you label it shonen and be like, oh, this is not shonen, this is something else.
And it's clearly saying it, right?
Yeah.
God, and again, it's funny because like what I kind of do is I say to myself, okay, can I toss this in Shonen Jump?
Mm.
Really? No. Can't toss that. I mean, they might put it in there, but it's not gonna reach that young boy's audience.
Yeah, but like Shonen Jump Plus or something.
Right, maybe Jump Plus, something like that. Yeah, but the Shonen Jump. It's funny because there are manga and Shonen Jump that's becoming more popular, and Jump Plus that's becoming more popular than the Shonen Jump manga.
Hmm.
So again, I don't think that. I think the Shonen Jump is kind of like the gateway drug, and that's how But people forget that that's how you treat it.
Yeah.
So So also, uh. what do you think that Western media, the Western comic scene, or whatever you want to call it, what do you think? Number one, that they don't understand about manga, and what do you think What do you think will be lessons they could learn from manga to strengthen the Western comic? To strengthen Western comics. Let's say that.
That's a hard one. Um,
Dig deep.
let's see. These close this
Very
out.
deep.
Yeah. As far as strengthening it, I think. Hmm. Repeat that one more time.
I'm saying, what do you think that uh basically I'll rephrase the question.
Okay.
What do you think some of the lessons that manga does well that the Western comic can use to kind of shore up some of their missteps?
Okay. Oh,
Still a hard question.
yeah. I think goes back to the structure thing where uh if Western comics had like definitive beginning, I think that would help people pick it up easier because like I want to know the background of Spider-Man, but where do I start? There's like so many Spider-Man. And then so I think that would help drive the Western comics. Because other than that, I don't know if there's too much of a challenge to face. I think
Well,
that'll be my main point there.
well, this is the reason I asked the question, right? I watch another Western comics guy online.
Hmm.
He was talking about how Western comics shouldn't be like manga. They should always make it so that their characters don't kill. And what
Mm.
that does is that kind of eschews the history of why that's the case. And the history of why that's the case is basically uh, from a fraudulent report that took place in the 50s by this guy, last name Waltham, wrote this book, Seduction of the Innocent, I think it was called, right? And so in that, he talks about how comics are salacious and blah, 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 and how they should do stuff with comics, whatever. And so what the comics guys did at that time, they self-policed. They created the comics code, right?
Mm.
If you ever read the comics code, you'd just be like, huh? What is this insanity? All right. And so that's ruled comics until early 90s, right? So it's a lot of just crazy stuff in it, right?
Mhm.
So But before that, like I said, comics had many genres, and I think that that's also a strength of manga right now, that there are many genres. We like, even in the mangaka here in America right now, they don't talk about all the genres of manga. Look, the thing like this, you got cooking manga, you got manga for housewives, you got manga
Mm.
for all facets of life in Japan, right? And so there's no stigma. Also, there's no stigma to reading manga in Japan, right? So there's no, it's like, oh, if they got manga for kids, but there's no stigma for me in Asia reading manga.
Mm.
There's no stigma there, right? So do you think that any of that, so yeah, so that leads to the stigma of comics being for kids,
Okay.
right? Do you think that that's a part of the problem too, or do you think that's something that they need to look at manga and other forms of sequential storytelling for, or what do you think as far as that's concerned?
Yeah, I think there is a big stigma with being either for like kids or like for nerds.
Right.
But yeah, if Western comics were more segmented into different age groups, different genres, that would help it quite a bit. And I think also yeah, the types of stories that Western comics tell, because you would want to walk up to someone and be like, hey, uh, or someone approaches you like, hey, I want to get into comics. Which, what would I start with? And I'm into this and this. Like, oh, I know this series. Would establish that. Uh, because with manga, I've even introduced my dad. He doesn't watch anime or manga or anything, but I'm like, hey, Attack on Titan might fit your likes.
Right.
And yeah.
And then also,
Mm-mm.
all right, no Attack on Titan, Asia.
No, I hate Attack on Titan.
Oh,
It's so I feel like it's one of those things that look like the anime looks really nice and the music is nice, but that's it. I feel like that everybody is blinded by how good it looks, but I digress.
yeah.
I digress.
They say
But on that note,
they're
I
blinded
was
by
gonna say,
science, Asia.
huh?
They're blinded by science.
Blinded by BS.
Yeah.
So we're
But
getting. No, go ahead, Asia. I'm sorry.
what I was gonna say, because you were talking about like how you introduced your dad into manga. What are some good original English mangas you feel like people should read
Uh,
that you would recommend?
as far as English mangas, I I'm not too sure because I've
I'm not
only
sure.
he's into very more like political and like I guess like more of the serious type of stories. So anything in that genre he would be into.
Manga then that I think you might want to find. I gave my copy of this manga away.
You're supposed to talk about your manga
Oh, you're in
and say I'd
mine?
recommend. Yeah, you're supposed to say I'd recommend my manga.
I mean, he supports my manga, but it's not his genre.
But
Oh
it's
no, I'm
good.
sorry. I was
Oh,
asking what would you recommend to anybody to read, not
yeah.
just your
Oh,
dad.
anyone.
Tell
Okay.
us now. We got you at the apex. Now, thanks, Asia. It's about NARAKU murder. Bring us in.
All right. So, NARAKU Murder is a crime drama story where it's about yokai who are split into yakuza groups. So, like
Send me a yokai.
the main character is a Tengu, and his yakuza group is like led by the Otengu. Uh, and so it takes place in a fictional Japanese city called Shikisanjo, where different yokai groups have different territories. And so I won't spoil it all the way, but main character, he he's not the leader of the Tengu, but he's an underling who got framed for murdering his dancho, his leader. And so now he and one other Tengu have set up a little bar and are trying to absolve his crime and pretty much survive this world of other yokai clans. And also on top of that, there's a human organization who are hunting yokai. There we go.
You had me at yokai and yakuza. So where can I read this ad?
It'll be so right now it planned to be up online, and then once I finish maybe I don't know 5 chapters, should be enough for a volume.
Pokemon, yeah.
Yeah.
So right now, it's in origami. Is we did do China Taco is doing an origami super punch right now. So you I think you can, as I remember.
Yeah.
You brought up something. Or first of all, your dad. There's
Yes.
this called Eagle.
Mhm.
Find it, get it for your dad. It's about the presidential election and the shadiness that goes on in presidential elections. It's really good. I
Okay.
had copies of it, but I think I gave it to one of my students because I wanted to read it so bad. That was my proof to her that you could do manga for anything.
Yeah.
Also, we were leading somewhere, and I kind of wanted to get into it in the last couple minutes. We talked about manga having a beginning and an end. We talked about it being able to do many different genres, but do you think that being focused primarily on the superhero genre here in the Western, I was going to say Western comics, I say American comics in particular, because it's not that case in Britain, it's not that case in France. Do you think being focused on primarily superhero comics genre is a problem in terms of people taking comics seriously?
That will be a hard yes, because I think when people bring up comics, they automatically think it's some superhero thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, the indie comic scene, I don't know how versed you are in the indie comic scene, but the indie comic scene seems to be doing a lot of that, but I don't know. I think it's kind of overshadowed by the superhero comic scene.
Hmm.
Like, have you ever read The Crow? You ever read that book?
The Crow is not. No, I don't think I've.
Or have you ever heard of it?
Yeah, I have.
So The Crow, again, it's basically most indie comics are paced just like mine. There's a definite beginning, there's a definite end, different protagonists, and they also, a lot of them, even if they're superhero, they'll kind of go toward a more mature fare.
Mm.
So my thing is, it's weird because I don't know. Let me ask you this question, right? There's
Mhm.
one more question on my end. Do you think that anime cons need to be doing a whole lot more to push manga? Because I noticed that they really don't.
Okay. I think it would help, but I don't know how they would do it. Because I know a lot of people who watch anime but don't actually read manga.
Sure.
So yeah, I think if it was pushed a little bit more, that would be nice, but
Maybe if they had a section for mangaka, because the thing with anime cons, you see a lot of tchotchkes being sold. You see a lot of unauthorized prints of mainstream of anime being sold.
Mhm.
So if you think that if they had just a section, it would be, something that would, maybe help or no.
I think it would help a little bit. It'll get more eyes on it at least,
All right.
but still be a challenge.
Yeah, no doubt. Definitely. So Asia, do you have anything else you
Let
want?
me see. I think you answered all my questions. I mean, I'm still a little hurt that you don't like fairy tale, but that's okay. That's okay. I'll let it go.
You let it
Today.
slide, huh?
Just for today.
To be fair, you ripped on Attack on Titan.
That's real. That's real. Understandable.
So this is my big question right here that I'll end this with.
Mhm.
if everything works out, where do you see yourself as a mangaka in 5 years?
5 years.
That's a big one.
Yeah, I would see myself at least a lot more established than what I am right now. I would see myself going to making appearances at cons. Uh, yeah, having more than, I want to say maybe more than 5 volumes at least.
Sure.
Yeah.
But at least
And yeah, and not only for NARAKU Murder, but I do have some other works
there you
that
go.
I'm working on, and I could see myself doing some merch with those as well. And yeah,
That's the next question I'm going to ask you. Can you tell us about maybe one or two other works that you're working on?
okay. I have one other work which is almost done for at least 6 little chapters. It's called Apparently My House is Haunted.
Yeah.
It's a story
That
about
sounds good.
it's a guy who rents a haunted house and has to deal with all the creepiness that goes on with there. So it's just a really like fun story where I get to draw like horrific Junji Ito style things.
I'm laughing because your studio mate, George Meriden, director, he's working on Ghost Movie.
Okay.
Now, where can we follow you on social media if we wanted to follow you?
I have I guess my main one would be Twitter or I guess it's called X now, but Twitter at KAZEKYOU Tekito. I have a Blue Sky, I have Instagram, and I think those are the biggest ones.
We'll be putting all that stuff up at the end of the volume 2. Thanks for asking that too, Asia.
No problem.
Oh, Cortex forgets question.
Yeah. I do plan maybe this year to launch my own website.
Nice.
Mhm.
Congrats.
Thank you.
That works away. All right, so look, man, thank you for sitting with us to talk to us, about who you are, what you're doing. We look forward to seeing, more of your work, in the future and supporting your work, as well, which is important. Thank you, Asia,
No
for
problem.
Yeah, thank you.
hosting with me and asking, all those poignant questions and then crapping on Attack on Titan.
I will crap on Attack on Titan for many, many millennia.
Hey, we could do a whole podcast on you beating up. We're gonna call it Attack on Titan.
Oh man.
Yes, let's do it. I'm here for it. I'll even bring some fellow haters with me.
No,
Oh.
just a bunch of them.
It's enough. It's enough. But there could be more. There could be more.
And it's gonna be me and Kaze and then just them.
Yup.
That's raw. That's raw. So if Joe was here, he would say some stuff. I'm just gonna, thank you guys for being here, man. It's been really very enlightening. Learned a lot. And thank you guys. Again, I'll thank you 1,000 times. And we'll make sure the techies Kaze's information is at the end of this podcast. And I'm going to put some information up for Asia, where we can start kind of looking at, at the zine scene that she's in and looking at their zine in particular. All right. What would Joe say if he was here? Joe would say something about, all right, Comies. It's the Honeycomb Hideout, and the fans are called Comies. So, all right, Comies, peace out.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Fuck off!
Anything you want to add?
I'm good.